I'm doing good. I've been looking forward to this all week. Really grateful for you. And you've been sending a lot of love my way, thanking me. But honestly, that the whole reason I reached out was because whenever we've seen you reacting to our tracks, you and the chat, it's just been the biggest buzz. And I'm a big believer in community, and the old music community is just incredible. And this album is obviously for people to enjoy, but there's a lot of thought behind it and the concepts of unity in time. And you suggested the idea of a deep dive, and I'm just really looking forward to today. So I just want to say not just a huge thanks to you, Jonny, for setting this up, but for everyone in the chat. I've been in the chat with you guys many times before, and you're all freaking awesome.
I mean, what a legend you are, sir. That's very kind, thank you, and that is exactly why we do it. So firstly, what we should go into is with the unfortunate circumstances that we currently find ourselves in the world, we could do with a bit of unity in this time zone. So obviously I know that was nothing to do with it. I just thought it was very apt to mention how horrible the world is at the moment. So it's been a long road for you guys to get the album out and back on track. I know you've obviously had some difficult times as well. So what are some of the topics that Unity in Time touches on, and what was the mindset going into creating the album?
Sure. Well, yeah, firstly, what you mentioned about the current times we are in. This album dropped the day after Russia invaded Ukraine. And funnily enough, it's probably not the best phrase to use for this, but it was kind of odd and peculiar that the end track on this album, Horror Show, was actually released on a demo about 4 years ago, and I think that was the day after Brexit. So, regardless of where people are on issues, it was a time where there was a lot of people not really in the mindset for celebrating a new album release. No. Their minds were elsewhere, and so it's been a bit odd in that way. But Unity in Time is an album that is all about connection. It goes through a wide variety of sounds and styles because as a band, Schemata Theory, we're influenced by so many different artists and music genres. I mean, I'm a huge metal fan. I grew up with Fear Factory, which was my biggest inspiration, but I'm also into electronic dance music. I love Daft Punk, and I grew up on Duran Duran. But with the flavours in the music being quite varied, the themes as well, as we were crafting it, we realised connection was, not to be punning about it, but it is what connected it all together. And so if I was to kind of summarise it, Unity in Time is about how we connect with each other in the world through technology. It's about how we connect with ourselves, with self-compassion and dealing with mental struggles. But it's also how we connect with nature. The fact that we are not above nature, we are nature, and so we need to live in accordance of it. But what we've always said as a band is, as a mission, we just want to write music that we enjoy playing and that people love to hear live and sing along to. But if people want to look a bit deeper and look at the meaning and they take something away from that, that is an amazing bonus. And so our mission is really to create anthems of social consciousness, but they are only objectives. Whether we succeed at that is not down to us as a band. Kind of the ownership is out there to you, the listeners, and to hear people's responses to the music and what people think about it is, for me, the most exciting part. And so, again, it's why it's amazing to be today.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Just a couple of things before we start going into the tracks and listening to it. Obviously, Myles and the guys have been kind enough to give one of their amazing album bundles away in a giveaway tonight. So I'll let Myles explain to you how you could go about winning that. Secondly, if you are on Twitch and you like metal alternative music reviewers like myself, you will know Evie. Well, me and Evie are starting a podcast very soon, trying to shine light on, obviously, we're doing it once a month, so all the metal news that's happened, all releases, all bands getting in touch for us to listen to the music, and just giving, it's completely free, just a platform to bands to try and, get a bit more eyes and ears on them. So that's called The Messiah and the Fox. Thank you so much for the subscription, sir. That is very kind.
So that's the quickest response I've heard to a subscription, just because we're chatting live.
But thank you so much, mate. I really do appreciate that. Myles, do you want to explain how the viewers can go about winning a Unity in Time bundle this evening?
Sure. So wanted to make it simple, but I also understand that when you try and make things simple, it turns out it's not. But yeah, at the end of the show, we're going to give away a Unity in Time bundle, which includes a signed copy of the album, which I have here. That'll hold up to the camera. Some nice artwork. Yeah.
Beautiful.
All signed. But it also comes with a Unity in Time T-shirt. Check it on our website. It's beautiful artwork there as well. It's got some signed photos. It's got badges, pics, all sorts of little goodies. And so, yeah, we're going to give it to one of you lucky winners today. So if you want a chance of winning it, this is all you need to do. 1, follow us on Spotify if you aren't already. We'd really, really appreciate that. Number 2, make sure you follow us on Instagram, but also follow JMR Music Reviews if you aren't already on Instagram. That's really, really important. And then 3rd and finally, the most important thing is post an Instagram story with us tagged just about Unity in Time, what it means to you. It might be something that comes up in this conversation today. It might just be like, I'm listening to it and I like it. But if you do that over the next hour or so, we're then going to choose a random winner and we'll send you a Unity in Time bundle at the end. So, yeah. If anyone in the chat asks how they can win it, you know, I know that the chat's amazing at re-explaining stuff, but yeah, that's pretty much it. But we'll do reminders throughout the show.
That's it. So basically, just a quick recap. Follow Schemata Theory on Spotify. Secondly, follow myself and the guys on Instagram. Secondly, I've noticed there's a lot of new names in chat tonight. So also, if you could follow the stream, that would be amazing as well. It helps a lot.
Yes.
And at the end, obviously, also don't forget to do a story and tag the guys in it. At the end, Myles and the guys will choose one of you lucky people to win a bundle. But let's get into it, my friend. So we were talking just before we went live, obviously, about something I always like to ask when doing deep dives. Was it a very natural process with the track listing, or was it more of a natural process of thinking it just flows nicely how it is, or was it meticulous?
Sorry, say that last bit again.
Was it like a meticulous process of choosing the track listing, or was it more natural in the way it formed?
It was, you know, we had some idea, but I mean, for example, these first 2 tracks was actually one. So As Clouds Gather was the beginning of Voices, but once we'd done it and realised Voices is how we're going to have to launch this album, for music videos and stuff like that, it made sense to separate it just so that we can, you know, when the music video kicks in, it's just there in your face. In terms of the other tracks, yeah, there was a lot of discussion. I would love to say it was all intentional, but yeah, it was kind of like as we're listening to it after it's been mixed by Justin Hill, former vocalist of Sick, who worked on this.
That's amazing.
Done an amazing job on it, and yeah, this is what we came up with. But we always felt Voices was definitely going to have to be the opening track because it encompasses a lot of the themes, but also really kicks you in the face with a really big sound that we wanted to get across.
Amazing. Was Voices one of the first singles that you wrote, or was this one later down the line?
Oh, that's a good one. So Hugh, our guitarist, the writing process, just to go through it quickly. So Hugh would compose these tracks, and I think they were all named colours, like the Pokemon games. And Amazing. So I think Voices was called Blue. Because if you number them, it just gets even more confusing.
Oh, yeah.
And then he would work with Mario, who's also on guitar and is on our Instagram today. So if you get a DM from our Schemata Theory Instagram, that is Mario, the wonderful Mario. And then they would also work with Joshua, who is on drums. And on his electric kit at home, he would be crafting the percussion pieces with it, and they would work between them on structures. Then Luke, who is the singer, and I scream in the band, we get together with Hugh, and then we sort of record the sort of demos. But the way we do it is we listen to the music and we actually freestyle over the music. So I'm screaming absolute rubbish, probably the biggest platitudes you've ever heard in metal. And Luke would sing the same, and we would record it. Now those recordings are never going to see the light of day, sorry guys. And yeah, we would do that, and then I would go away and I would write lyrics with the freestyle recordings just to get a sense of the tone.
Yeah.
So there's a song on here called Our Early Home, which is all about the environment. But initially, when I heard it, I had written some lyrics around factory farming and animal welfare. But as it was crafted and we were going through it, other things came to fruition. And then Luke and I work between us, and then we go back and we record in the garage with Hugh, where we replace those freestyle ramblings with actual lyrics. And, you know, I have the syllable structure, so that's how it works. And then we're ready to go into the studio. So I know that was a bit of a long-winded answer, but in terms of like was Voices first, we had a selection of songs, but I think Voices was definitely lyrically and vocally the one that we hit at first, because it just musically sounded like an obvious single and had a very straightforward structure.
Well, you're allowed, Myles, here to go into whatever kind of story you want, because that's what Deep Dives are for, mate. You can talk about the scrambled egg or glass of water you had that morning. Let's go with, can you talk to us about the lyrical content about Voices and what you were going for with this track?
Sure, and firstly, just off what you're saying, like if anyone in the chat has any questions, I know Jonny will relay it anyway. I'm happy to answer anything. In terms of the lyrical of Voices, so Voices is really the crux of what it is to have a voice. It's the idea that voices can be used for good, they can be used for bad, but they have consequence. And so the sort of metaphysical utterance I'd make to it is the idea that in human history, any action or invention or idea that has ever appeared in this world was once uttered by one person. So anything that's ever happened in the world was first uttered by just a single person, which is just such an amazing thing to think about, that one voice, which is basically externalizing an inner intention. And so we wanted a song that really laid out the fact that we all have voices. They have been used for terrible things and still are. And so we should realize we have a responsibility with that. But also, Voices isn't just about your ability to vocalize. And so actually the line in the chorus, when voices have never been more powerful, in the music video, I contacted my friend Dee, who teaches British Sign Language, and I got her to teach me British Sign Language for when voices have never been more powerful. And so if you watch the music video at the end, you'll see me sign it. Not as well as she could, but I did practice a lot on a video call during the pandemic. But it was also to be inclusive in a non-patronizing way, to say that regardless of your way of communicating, that we all have an ability to externalize this inner intention and hopefully work together to make the world a better place.
I love it. I love that. I absolutely love it. And I love that little part. I always wondered what you were doing in that part, and now it makes sense. Amazing.
It wasn't a spasm.
Amazing.
Get cramp in my arm.
Let's go. We'll play As Clouds Gather into Voices, and then we'll keep going through the album. Again, like Myles said, if you have any questions for Myles about the writing process or anything, get him in chat, and I'll ask him at the end of the song. Here we go. Enjoy. Dude, just so good. I mean, you know, you were in the chat when we were all gushing about it last time, but what a track.
It was amazing. And look, you know, I have no shame in saying this. Like, I think it's a great song, and I enjoy listening to it. Like, I'm a fan of music, and when Hugh came with this, and I was hearing the drums, especially with the feel that goes into the beginning of the track from As Clouds Gather, it was just it's great. And then when we play it live, because we open up with As Clouds Gather on the system, and then we kick in, and you know, seeing the looks on people's faces when those guitars kick in with the drums, it's like straight away people are like, okay, now I know what the rules of engagement are. Like, this is clearly the chorus riff, and by the end of it, I don't know, there's just this magic in the room, and it's I just love it. It's just so good.
That the lead melody in the chorus, the melody on the guitars, it's so huge, and you should be rightly proud of it.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing also is that, you know, vocally, Luke and I are quite different in our vocal styles, and over the last decade, we've, you know, found a way that it works well together.
Yeah.
And we, you know, I'd say that we haven't fully sussed it yet. We're still experimenting. But it's also been a big journey for us, because a bit of trivia here. So 10 years ago, as of November 25th this year, it was when our debut album, our last album, came out, Dry Lung Rhetoric. And that came out of a previous band that we were in, where our vocalist had left, and we'd recorded the album just musically, and I was the drummer at the time. And so all the music had been done, and then Luke came on board to try out as a vocalist, and he was great, but he wasn't a screamer. And I'd always done that. I'd always been a lyricist. And so they said, do you want to give it a go? And so I thought I'd give it a try. And then we were lucky enough to find Joshua to get on drums, who just, even at the time, is 10 times the drummer I could only dream of being. Like, his precision with fills and the double pedal and everything is just great. And so me and Luke had to, in 3 months, we'd never actually recorded our vocals professionally before for an album, and we recorded it. We'd written the lyrics, recorded demos, gone in, done it all in 3 months. And when the reviews came out, the consensus was like, it's a great album, especially musically. But Metal Hammer gave us 6 out of 10 and said, the music's fantastic, the vocals let it down. And when I read that straight away, I kind of agreed with it, because I knew I wasn't quite ready yet. But to hear that or read that in Metal Hammer, you know, something that you've grown up with, it's a hard thing to take. But I'm someone who always tries to keep my ego in check, and I always like to treat things as an opportunity to learn. And so when this album came out and Metal Hammer gave us 8 out of 10 and actually complimented the vocals, it felt like a real redemption arc for us. And it was really great to see. And across the board, a lot of compliments towards the vocals. And so when I hear you and people in the chat, you know, saying that you like the vocals, it means that extra bit more, because of that journey that we've been on, where once upon a time, you know, we were new and we were learning, but we stuck at it, and that was the important thing.
You know, with that rating, Myles, you know what the next album's going to be rated, don't you? 6, 8.
Oh my!
We know what the next one is.
Yeah.
Let's go. Sorry, dude.
No, I was just going to say, I'll keep dreaming. Who knows?
I have the faith, and that's all that matters. Track 3, Prism. Do you want to tell us some little...
Yes. So Prism's going to be a track thematically that a lot of people are going to relate to. So it's kind of about the social or the status economy that we all live with online. It's all about followers. It's growing your audience. It's about grabbing attention. It's an attention economy as well. We're all trying to grab each other's attention. But it's the fact that I wouldn't say it's cancel culture. I have a lot of misgivings about that term. I think it's overly used. It's the idea that because status is so important online, it's about growing your audience, that it's also the thing that people go to first. If people can smear you for a mistake that you've made in the past and say that defines you forever, that's going to hopefully destroy you from their perspective. And so people are constantly pointing away from their own misgivings to put the attention onto other people when it's negative things, and then when it's positive things, it's like, look at me. And so prism is this idea that we are all these prisms where there's incoming light. I mean, there's a line in it: status is a prism with incoming light, it's fight or flight. And it's the idea that all this light is coming in, and depending on how we position ourselves is how it gets refracted. And so I've had my own experiences of some pretty horrific stuff online many years ago in the early YouTube days, where I had stuff written about me that wasn't true. And back then it felt like a massive sea of anonymous faces. It's nothing like it is now. Obviously Twitter and stuff has grown so massively. And so, yeah, Prism, it kicks you in the face right from the get-go, and it's just a brutal acknowledgement of this status economy that people are brutally trying to get on top of each other about.
I love it. This is track 3, Prism. That was track 3, Prism. So good.
Dude, I just want our next music video just to be of your face reacting to it.
I mean, 0 views there, mate. I love it. Yeah, and just going back to the drums, honestly, insane. It almost sounds like he's doing like crossover fills that blow your mind.
Yeah, Joshua's a ridiculous drummer.
Shout out Joshua.
To be a drummer in metal anyway is a very tough feat. But I've always just had, even at practice. Was it last night? It's been a bit of a blur this week. We had a practice last night.
Yeah.
Rehearsals, and even all this time later, there's just parts of these songs that I'm just looking over and just It's the ferocity of it. It's the energy, and it's also, you can be high energy, but it's also the precision as well.
Of course,
And
yeah.
I think also because the album does go through a lot of different styles of metal. I mean, I'd ask the chat what you regard us genre-wise. I mean, we regard ourselves as post-hardcore, but it's interesting. I think depending on what songs people would hear of us first, they might have a completely different idea.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of progressive elements to you guys. I think sometimes, a lot of the times, for like there, I would class Prism kind of like, obviously not as chaotic, but kind of like Protest the Hero meets Atreyu kind of vocals. That's the kind of stuff. I love it. Yeah, like Evie says, why label your art? You are Schemata Theory. You are what you want to be, and yeah,
I totally agree with that. But unfortunately, when you're working with press, they need to know what you are, and so you do actually have to have a deep dive into it. But no, I'm totally with you. Like on the grand scheme of things, and that's why I say, like, when this music goes out there, it's now down to the listeners to have the conversations. And
yeah, I mean, I was by my lovely community named the Metalcore Messiah, so I feel that I will say you guys do have a lot of elements of metalcore. And talking about metalcore, I think the next track is my favourite track you've ever done.
That's really interesting. Dude, I'm always interested to hear what tracks stand out for people.
Again, I think this was what you saw us all on one of the episodes that you were so. I mean, it means the world to me because I literally only do it for the bands and for having like a community base to do it with. Like I say, it's hanging out with friends and listening to music. So the fact you guys saw it and did it, but I remember, I think we rewound it about 5 times. This track, I don't know, it's got everything I want in modern metal. Tell us some things about Mind Eater.
Sure. But before I do, because I saw Cuzzy had asked a question, and I don't want to miss it. Yeah. It was asking, how did COVID affect you getting the album put together, or was it a seamless thing where you all did your own thing and it was pre-production ready? So we finished recording this like 2 or 3 weeks before the pandemic started. So we were very, very lucky. But what it did mean was actually releasing it took about 2 years, because towards the end of that first year, we were ready to do a music video, but it meant going across the country. And although we were legally allowed to do it, we felt morally, at a time when everyone was being asked to stay at home, we just didn't feel comfortable about that. And so there was a lot of things going on with delays. Also, when we actually recorded it, we actually only recorded 5 tracks, and then there were 3 tracks that we released 4 years before on a demo, on EP, which we then took off and we remixed them. And I'll let you have a guess what songs they are. We can do that as a little quiz at the end, see if you can guess what are the 3 that were brought in from the past.
Okay.
And then and then we decided, this actually should become an album. This all sort of relates. As for Mind Eater, so look, Mind Eater, funnily enough, a lot of these titles are all to do with, like, words that are in the lyrics, but Mind Eater straight away was just a term that came to my mind of, like, when it comes to anxiety, what is anxiety? It is this, just Mind Eater, and the more that you focus on the anxiety, the more it grabs hold of you. I've always been very open about my own struggles. I'm an old school YouTuber who started in 2006 when I was like 18 or 19. I've just turned 35, which shows my age. YouTube's been around a long time, but it was in 2009 that I did a video about my own struggles that it was seen by like 100,000 people, which back then was, I mean, it's huge now, but it was a real big deal then. And I realized it was kind of this empathy machine. It was a chance for people to sort of share their experiences. And so Mind Eater is a track that is all about how horrific anxiety can be, the real dark aspects of it. What is my worth? More than it hurts is a line in it. But it's also about the importance of self-compassion. Now, throughout my life, I've gone through counselling many times. I'm sure there'll be people in the chat that have related to their own sessions that they've gone to. They might have had regular counselling. They might have had CBT. I've had all of that. But actually, about 3 years ago, I actually I went private to get some therapy, and the therapist I found said they took a holistic approach. And what they said was, my therapy is a bit of cognitive behavioural therapy, which is where they teach you sort of the tools so that in future you know how to deal with depression and the different patterns in your mind. Because I regard regular counselling as kind of like, you go to a session, you spill out everything out, just get it off your chest, and then you're done. But then it might resurface again, whereas cognitive behavioural therapy is like protecting you for the future. So my therapist was CBT, but also mindfulness, which is very popular at the moment with meditation, but also compassion-focused therapy. And that was something that was quite new to me. And she recommended a book by a professor, Paul Gilbert, who's based in Derby. And he came up with compassion-focused therapy. And I'm not going to get into it all now, but I will leave a couple of things that are just really interesting. But she got taught by him. And funnily enough, I reached out to him and I got in contact. And his daughter, Hannah Gilbert, who works on the Compassionate Mind Foundation, is a metal fan. She like grew up on Fear Factory and stuff, and I was like, "This is amazing!"
That is amazing.
And so, Mind Eater is actually, I've got the book here, The Compassionate Mind. I'd highly recommend it. It's like half the science of compassion, and then half like techniques you can use. But like, I'll give you a couple of examples to explain how compassion works. So when you have friends that are going through depression, you'll be really kind to them. You offer them help and support. But if you're going through that exact same thing, you won't be kind to yourself. You'll be thinking, I'm such an idiot. Like, I need to grow up, or, get a thicker skin. You talk to yourself in ways that you would never dream of talking to anyone else. And so Professor Paul Gilbert goes into the fact of like, there's exercises where you sit on a chair, but you get an empty chair next to you. So you say what you feel, and then you sit in the chair next to you and you go, well, now what would you give yourself a hug and things like that? And just externalizing it makes you have more compassion for yourself. But he also talks about the fact that compassion is often seen as this nicety, it's this soft power, when it's actually not. It's a very courageous thing that you need to do. And so when a firefighter breaks into a burning building to save, a family in there, that is a compassionate act. But that is not soft, that's not nice. I mean, it is nice, but that takes real courage. And so he is just putting the notion out there that we need to have courage, and in accepting that we are on this rock in this void, hundreds of thousands of years of suffering. It wasn't that long ago that people would die from their teeth or from childbirth in ways that they aren't now. And yet here we are, and we were born into these bodies that we had no choice over. We didn't get to choose what bodies we were in, what minds we had, what country we're in the world. We didn't have choice of any of this. And so we should have a bit more compassion for ourselves. And the last thing I would say, because this relates to the chorus of Mind Eater, the first line is past and future exhausting me. And this really gets to like what mindfulness is about. It's about like being in the present. And it's because, evolutionary speaking, it is an advantage that as human beings we're able to like tap into our memories and remember what's happened before. That's really useful. But it also means we often worry about stuff that's happened to us that isn't actually happening now, and we keep going over in our heads about, this is annoying me, and or what, that could have been so much worse. And also we have foresight. We can look into the future. That's also a really good tool that humans have. But looking into the future also means you start worrying about everything that hasn't happened yet. And so all this stuff that we're worrying about, the past and the future, and yet we're not living in the now. And the best way that Paul Gilbert explains it, and I recommend searching him on YouTube, is he says, like, if you've got an antelope that is, and I've probably misrepresented this, is like a tiger jumps out and goes after the antelope. The antelope is going to think, shit, and then run away. And let's say the antelope escapes. What's going to happen then? The antelope's going to start eating some more grass. And is in the moment, that's it. Now, if it was a human, and for whatever reason we had a tiger jump out, we would think, oh, shit, and we would run away. But what would happen if we escaped the tiger? Would we just start getting on with our life? No, we would worry about the past. That could have been so worse, it could have ripped me alive, I could have never survived. And also you worry about the future of like, but what if there are other tigers out there? Now, there are important things for these tools, but it means that we're constantly being cruel to ourselves and beating ourselves up about two realities, past and the future, which is currently not existing. So it's about having compassion for yourself and living in the moment. And that is I was going to say in a nutshell. That was quite a long-winded explanation, but I really wanted to give some context of what Mind Eater is all about.
It wasn't, and if anything, it's just made me affirm how much more I love this song, because that was amazing. And as Eric says, I feel called out in the best way right now. I think most people, if not all, in the chat can, relate to everything you've just described. So, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and it's why it's important we have these conversations and
100%.
We all, it's the whole thing of like, you're not alone, but the truth is that when you're dealing with these things, your experience is unique to you, so you can never know truly what someone else is going through.
Yeah.
But by talking about your experiences, you never know who you're going to impact, because there's two ways you can impact someone. One is someone does feel the same way as you, or they don't feel the same way, but they went through the same experience. And sometimes it could be both. And so just by talking about it, you actually give courage to people out there to realize that they need to speak their truth as well, because social media is absolutely filled with the highlights of people's lives.
Yeah.
And even though we know that, you are constantly being conditioned at comparing your life to people that seem a lot happier. And we all go through struggles, and okay, it's not okay. It's like when people ask, Myles, are you okay when I'm going through shit? I'm like, it's a yes and a no. It's a, no, I'm not okay, but yes, I am, because I know what to do about it, because of what, like, the compassionate mind has taught me. But for many, many years, I wasn't in a good place. And so I just want to, tell as many people about, compassion-focused therapy as possible, because it totally changed my life, unlike what previous therapies have done.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, mate. Here we go. I mean, just as a musical standpoint, Lose Your Mind. This is the incredible Mind Eater. Keep the questions coming for Myles if you have any. Just ridiculous. I'm sorry, it's just ridiculous. It's so good.
And again, Joshua's drumming, the sort of the drum build-ups he does before each chorus. When I heard it on the demos, I was like, "This is so awesome."
Yeah, man.
And also, huge credit again to Justin Hill, because when you work with a producer, sometimes you have a producer who's just really good with the tech and can get the best sound out of you. And for me, that's like the minimum. Producers that you get the most value of are those that really help you craft the songs as well. And I'll give you an example with Mind Eater. So the beginning of the song and the end has that line, "When cold thoughts return, solitude becomes a concern." Now that is a line in a verse that originally wasn't written at the start and the end, but that was an idea he had where towards the end we just had the guitars and we needed something there. And he goes, "That line, there's something we can repeat here." And so we were trying it, and I thought, yeah, "When cold thoughts return, solitude becomes a concern." And so we repeated it, and then when he went away and mixed it, he was like, "Oh, by the way, this is going to go at the front as well, like as these bookends." And it's just, that's an example of just how producers can really add magic and give just make songs complete in ways that you don't initially feel.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And I agree with Eris, it's just over too quick. I'm going to be like one of those classic YouTube videos when I'm going to make a video, Mind Eater by Schemata Theory, but on loop for 10 hours. That's coming.
The other thing also is it's great to play live, but it's my least favourite to play live or rehearse currently because the end is so difficult. That life within us all, where we're going high when Luke and I do it. I mean, we're nailing it now in rehearsals just before our tour in a couple of weeks, but it's really difficult. And especially because we play it quite early in the set, it's that thing of you want to nail it, but you don't want to nail it at the expense of here we go. So Mafia Elvis in the chat is Luke. My brother on vocals. So yeah, he goes, "And mine, Myles." So yeah, it's something we both, and also because he's those highs that he does, Luke can do it, but there's a difference from being able to do it and doing it and feeling that you're comfortable afterwards, and that's a big part of the rehearsal process. And actually, to give people a bit more insight in terms of recording, I've always regarded recording as like putting a flag down in like what the ambition is, because if you go into a studio and you record an album that you're completely content with in terms of your technical ability, like you play it completely safe, by the time the album comes out and you're rehearsing to tour, you're going to outgrow it, and you're probably going to be using techniques and things that are I mean, there are certain songs actually where there are things already where I'm slightly tweaking it. Actually, yeah, the beginning of Mind Eater, I now do it in that more yelly sort of voices sort of style, chanty style, and that's fine. But if you go into a studio and you're pushing yourselves, obviously you don't want to push yourselves too much that I am never going to be able to do this live. But if you do it in a way that, this is going to be a real challenge, but it's something to work towards, it means once you've recorded it and you're doing rehearsals in the lead up to the release, you're actually building towards something, you're going on a journey. And so like when we recorded it, Voices, I was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to do this. And the fact I can do it live now very comfortably is just such an empowering feeling. And it means now that other tracks on our back catalogue that I used to struggle with are so easy. It's just ridiculous. And I know, again, Luke feels the same.
That's amazing. Let's move on to track 5, New Vision, which was one of the singles. What can you tell us about New Vision?
Yeah, I mean, look, off the back of Mind Eater, I'm going to be pretty quick with this one because it's kind of a two-parter. So New Vision was inspired... I had a head injury 6 years ago. Like the physical damage was I say minimal. Like I didn't have brain damage and stuff like that, but I had a bit of damage to my middle ear, and so. But the mental health recovery was quite tough over a 5-year period. I'll just throw in the joke now. I was a true headbanger. Way. And so this song is about what it is to like persist through adversity and get through it. But the thing I will throw on the side of New Vision was anyone that is a VR gamer, unfortunately not on PlayStation VR, which I have, but we actually commissioned a Beat Saber mapper to create a Beat Saber map for this song. And it's actually been played by some of the biggest players in the world that have got the most insane scores, which makes me sick. And so, yeah, if you have Beat Saber on Oculus or anything like that, you can play this track. I'm happy to put the link in the chat.
Awesome.
And in November, when it came out, there's literally hundreds of people who have put it on the high schools. And if you search New Vision on YouTube, there's like 25 videos of people playing it. It's like Master Chief from Halo or Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII. And what I'm actually going to be doing is, post-album launch now, is I've had over 50 videos sent from, in addition to those 25, from players all over the world, from Japan to America to Brazil. And I'm actually going to be creating a new Vision music video of just players from around the world slicing along to this Beat Saber track. So yeah,
that is an amazing idea, dude. That is so cool. I love it.
I'll get the link now while it's playing.
Yeah, let's go. This is New Vision. Get your sabers out.
Life can hurt much more than death, but each day is a chance to
I cannot wait for that Beat Saber video, dude. It's a great choice just to put on Beat Saber. but that video is going to be so cool. Such a good track.
Yeah, I mean, all the band are gamers, but I'm the virtual reality one, and I just felt out of all the tracks, that is the Beat Saber one because of the fast energy. It's got like a bit of everything. It's got a solo. Just watching the videos of people playing it, because what we did was we just come off tour in November. Some of the band had fallen ill, myself included, and so what better way to be stuck in than to go from Twitch stream to Twitch stream requesting our own track. But we weren't doing it where we were just stopping by Twitch streams, requesting it and moving on. Like, we'd spend 20-30 minutes in the chat. I would say, like, hey, hope you don't mind me requesting my band's track, and had the most amazing conversations. But the thing that was most powerful about it that I underestimated was, you know, as I've mentioned, New Vision is about persevering with adversity and getting to the end. These Expert Plus players, some of them, I remember the guy's Master Chief, he is literally panting. And on the final, like, where the guitars ring out just before that final breakdown bit, he is literally, like, leant over, breathing so heavily, going, oh my God, like, that was so fierce. And so when they said, like, what is the song about? And I explain it and I say, so we wanted a Beat Saber track that made you feel that you had overcome adversity. I realised, you know, I love the stuff that, you know, you do with reacting to videos. Like, that is absolute magic, seeing people react in real time to our videos and our music. But to see people react with physicality, like to physically be living the song, dude, I can't explain it. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. And, you know, if I could, I'd get the whole album put into Beat Saber. But we've had a few interviews in magazines about it, from tech magazines, and I know that some of the Beat Saber developers are aware of it. I don't think we're gonna get in the game, because at the moment they're working with like Lady Gaga and Billie Eilish, and they've had Linkin Park. You know, as much as I want to big up Schemata Theory, I don't think we're quite at that level yet. But it would be cool to be thrown in there extras OST. Yeah, it was a really, really cool project.
That is amazing. Let's move on to track 6, Vantage Point. Which were the two you wanted to play together?
Yeah, so it's well remembered. It's Vantage Point, then Our Only Home. So we'll do these two together.
Yeah.
And also, just to say, Mario was telling me on Instagram, lots of people have followed us, which is amazing. But if you want to win the bundle, you just got to post an Instagram story. It doesn't need to be of you. It can be just a screen grab of this page or something. And just tag Schemata Theory. Make sure that we are tagged in it so we can actually see it in our DMs. And just say what you think of the music, and then you'll go into the draw. Because at the moment, we've had a few. We've had a lot more follows. So just anyone that's followed us got a chance to win some goodies.
Get those stories on. Trust me, I've got one of these bundles. They're spicy.
Did it arrive?
Mate, like the next day. I said...
There we go. That's good service. Good service there.
Not only is Myles a top bloke, he's also Postman Pat.
Okay, so I can't take credit for that. So Joshua, our drummer, is Postman Pat, and he's been all on it. He's been brilliant.
I tell you what, I'm not surprised he delivers after listening to these fills.
I'm going to have to get Joshua to quote that, yeah. Dude, you're full of the quotes.
Thank you, man.
So, these next two. So, Vantage Point. Do you know what? I actually don't want to say anything about Vantage Point. I'd rather let everyone listen to it with no explanation, because I'm really interested to hear the chat, what they think of it.
Okay.
But we'll do Vantage Point, and then we'll do Our Only Home, and then we can talk about them, yeah.
Cool, let's go. Vantage Point and Our Only Home, enjoy. Keep the questions coming for Myles if you have any.
From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest. There is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves.
The person you are is like nobody else on the planet. Nobody has the exact memory that you have.
Now, fear is going to be a player in your life, but you get to decide how much.
What is now known is not all what you are capable of knowing. You are your own stories.
You could spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here. And the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. When we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it.
Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot.
You are your own story, and therefore free to imagine what it means to be human without rotating, rehearsing, and reinventing the hatreds you learned in the sandbox.
This call for worldwide fellowship that lifts neighborly concern beyond one's tribe, race, class, and nation is in reality a call for an all-embracing and unconditional love.
If we want to achieve our goal, then let us empower ourselves with the weapon of knowledge. And let us shield ourselves with unity and togetherness.
I don't have all the solutions. I want you to realize, neither do you. If you don't know how to fix it, please stop breaking it.
Dear sisters and brothers, we realize the importance of light when we see darkness. We realize the importance of our voice when we are silenced.
Although you don't have complete control over the narrative, you can nevertheless create it.
There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
and materialistic-oriented society is a false society. We have the brains, the know-how, the technology, and the feasibility to build an entirely new civilization.
Keeps ringing.
Mate, honestly. So, Vantage, I know music is kind of, especially these genres that we're a part of, for me, I've always not been great at kind of saying how I feel, but music has always been the best thing that goes, yeah, that's how I feel. That speaks to me. So that opening track, just for, Vantage Point, just for that 3 minutes of every single clipped section is so, I don't know, everything is so thought-provoking, everything that you hear is so true, and I just love it. And then it goes into Iron Hand, which is obviously really powerful in its message, but it's also got the riffs that could knock out Megatron, a Decepticon from planet Cybertron or whatever. It's absolutely amazing, man, honestly. I'll say it again. It is criminal how underrated you guys are, and I will fly the Schemata flag until every single song on this album goes on Beat Saber.
We will grab a beer when we're in town. I mean, towards the end, I'll go through the list of where we're playing in a couple of weeks, and when we're near you, we'll work something out.
Let's do it. Let us do it.
It'd be awesome. No, that means a lot. And funnily enough, I actually screen grabbed two of the things that were mentioned back to back, and WhatsApped it to the band and said, "My work here is done." And I quoted Sonny saying, "This track is epic," and then Cuzzy going, "This song makes me want to take on a Velociraptor." I was like, if there's a quote I want for us, it's that one.
You can definitely put that on the album promotion.
Yeah. I mean, I want a Velociraptor in a music video. That'd be amazing.
Imagine.
So the reason I didn't want to mention anything about Vantage Point is because I think because it's so quiet and focused on the words, I don't want to load people with any preconceptions.
I think you were right, because you don't really need to say anything, do you? It kind of does it for you.
Yeah. But funnily enough, and I guess I know a lot of bands probably don't talk about bad press. They try and talk about the good stuff, but I like to keep it real, because with art it is all subjective. What's been really interesting about the reviews of this album is there seems to be a division between the first and second half of the album. Now there are some reviews like Metal Hammer that liked it throughout, which is great, and we love that, but there were some that were loved the first half, post-hardcore, really done well, proggy and stuff. The second half, and they're Vantage Point. Some of the criticisms are having quotes on music we've heard so many times before. It's a tired format.
Nah, get in the bin. I'm sorry, get in the bin.
Oh, right. So for me, and our supporters, what we say, you shouldn't listen to everyone, Myles. And it's look, if people are constructive, that's fine. And also, people are totally entitled to their opinion. I don't take it personally. I respect it. But the thing I'd also say is guitar solos are a pretty tired format.
That's true.
Should we have it? And I don't know. So the interesting thing about Vantage Point was it was the last track we recorded. So after we recorded in the studio and the pandemic happened, me and Hugh were talking about the fact that he'd composed this instrumental piece, which was the music for it. And we were like, wow, this could really go on there. There's something we could work on it. And so I went away and I dug up quotes for Vantage Point, and we spent a lot of time piecing it together, because at first it was a bit random and then it was a bit too structured. and then we sort of got like a sort of sweet spot in the middle where there is a narrative, but it is clear it's individual people. And I think one of the criticisms one review gave, which was, which by the way, I think is a really interesting criticism, which I agree with what they're saying, but I don't think it matters. And they were saying that we've created a false authority by using quotes out of context, as in we're telling an overall context using individual people. But my counter to that would be, look, Martin Luther King Jr., when he was giving his Riverside Church speech in 1967, which it was taken from, that, yeah, of course, Martin Luther King wasn't thinking, one day I'm going to appear on a metal album next to Jim Carrey, the comedian, talking about, you know, not being fearful of the ghosts that plague your life. So, yeah, no, I agree. They are taken out of context, but I don't feel that they've been taken out of context in a way that diminishes or misrepresents what they're saying. They're all... For me, vantage point, which the term vantage point is from Carl Sagan's famous speech, The Pale Blue Dot. And for those that don't know, look it up online. So the Pale Blue Dot is the last photo that was ever taken by the Voyager satellite that was sent out of our solar system. And it takes a photo behind it of planet Earth, and it is this pale blue dot, this blurry dot in the vastness. And so the Carl Sagan speech is about every emperor that has risen to power, anyone that's ever loved anyone or killed someone, it's all taken place on this small marble. This is all we have. And it's that terrifying thing of like, this is so fragile. And I think that, you know, the vantage point is the idea that when we take a step back from everything, all these themes on the album, there are all these conversations happening through different moments of time, but I think they are all edging towards the calls for unity in different ways. And I think that's what the track tends to be a celebration of. But then he then talks about the only home we've ever known. And we had this song already, Our Only Home. And we thought there's no way we can end it on that and then not have it go into Our Only Home. And Our Only Home is, of course, about planet Earth, and the fact that we're living, we believe in infinite growth on a finite planet. We're constantly trying to consume more and more. And I think it's like there's a date every year of when we've consumed more resources than the Earth is able to replenish. And I think at the moment it's around August of every year. So it's unsustainable. You don't need me telling you that. It's on the news all the time about this climate crisis. But yeah, it's a heavy track, but it's the brutality of like what we're doing to this planet. And yeah, that's the two songs.
Absolutely amazing. Up next is track 8, Mirrors. It's only a 7.5 minute epic. What can you tell us about Mirrors?
I would say, well, like thematically, Mirrors is really getting to the heart of like what empathy is about. I host a podcast show called The Quest for Global Empathy. I am obsessed with the concept of empathy, about the need for connection with people, and it's the idea that that there's a book by Jeremy Rifkin called The Empathic Civilization, and he goes through the history of like what empathy is, and his explanation is empathy is all about your ability to communicate with others. So the cliff notes are that once upon a time we were in tribes and we had empathy with our blood connections because you were in a tribe and you would have empathy with each other, but if there was another tribe over the mountain, you're not talking with them. Can you trust them? So you don't have much empathy with them. They're like the strangers from afar. And then you've got like, you know, the Industrial Revolution, actually before that, the Agricultural Revolution. People then started having empathy with religious ties, you know, Christians in different parts of the world. There was a brotherhood there, same with Jews, Muslims, even more recently with atheists perhaps. But then it came to nation states that people across religions, across blood ties, have empathy for each other because we identify with each other within our nation states. But a lot of people forget that nation states, and actually I didn't really appreciate it, nation states is a very recent creation in human history. And something I always like to tell my American friends is that we have a toy store in London that is older than the United States of America.
That is mad, isn't it?
Is it Hamleys? I always get confused between the department store. There's Hamleys and then there's Harrods, but it is Hamleys.
It is Hamleys, yeah.
So there's that as well. And so Jeremy Rifkin talks about this and goes, if we've got this far, can we take it one step further and have a global empathic civilization that transcends borders? And so when we have, Theresa May, our former Prime Minister, giving a speech saying, for those that believe they're a citizen of the world, you're a citizen of nowhere, I find that a very old school way of thinking, and I think that's dying out because our generation is all connected online. When we go to war with another country, we probably know people there. And just to go to the Ukraine crisis, there's someone that I know online who lives in Ukraine right now, and every day DMing on Instagram, they're telling me they can hear the jets flying by, the bombing that's going, but they're staying. And so there is this global solidarity. You've got people in Russia taking to the streets in St. Petersburg, protesting despite threats of, being killed or, being vanished by the state. There is this global solidarity taking place, and that is at odds with the power structures that don't want to talk about it. And empathy is actually this massive inconvenience for politicians because, look at immigration, or not just immigration, but refugee crises. Talking about empathy of that could be one of your kids that's struggling. Politicians don't want to talk about that because now you've got to do something about it. Whereas if you can kind of other them, then you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so mirrors, the word mirrors is actually based on where empathy really does come from, which is in your brain. You have mirror neurons, and that is when you see someone else in front of you with pain or they're crying, your mirror neurons fire off and you experience to a certain degree what they are, and that is why you feel empathy with them. And so mirrors is this journey that goes through the different aspects. It actually ties a lot of themes throughout the album, but it's kind of this rallying call of bringing it together. But there's a spoken word bit that I do that's a bit Rao Enter Shikari style. I know Rao personally, and
that's
big
amazing.
Inspiration on me growing up.
Yeah.
But that really actually is that particular part of the song. When you hear it, that is a summation of what I've just mentioned now in terms of the history of empathy and can we actually take it further. But it's a long song, it's a long journey, it's not got a typical song structure. I think it was actually two songs that we sort of combined into one, and it was the track that we spent the most time in the studio agonizing over. But it works really well live, and we can't wait to play it.
Amazing. Well said as well, actually. Incredible. Also, Myles, do you want to link your channel for anybody that wants to go and follow his part? You did that on YouTube, right? Is that on YouTube?
Yeah, I haven't done it for a long time. I've had a long break, so I've been quite unwell since November. But yeah, it's called The Quest for Global Empathy. I'll put it in the chat for sure.
Amazing. This is track 8, Mirrors.
It is the eve of what we feared. A pale blue ship we were meant to steer. One day they will ask, where were you? we tie the gaps and let unity be displayed? From tribes to beliefs to nation states, how long can we live this way? So look beyond limitations that have always taught us to hide. Now we have a reason to no longer be afraid. If we tie the gaps and then unity be displayed. From tribes to beliefs to nation states, how long can we live this way? So look beyond limitations that have always taught us to hide. Can we be free if we harness unity? Minds may not always agree, but that doesn't make us enemies. Can we be free from old-fashioned loyalties? Bibles need expressive rage, global empathy can be achieved. Breaking out, we're breaking out, we're breaking out of our ways. Breaking out, we're breaking out, we're building a new We are made from all we know. No trial ever conquered alone. So share your thoughts and let them fade. We are made from all we know. No trial ever conquered alone. So share your thoughts and let them fade. Reaching out can be daunting. Darkness lies when we hesitate. Find the courage, find connection. Time and time again, the fires burn. History may hurt us, but we learn. We must use foresight to shine a light. This is our last moment to bathe in the void. Jumping in reflections of all we've destroyed. It's time for a new direction against established trains of thought. Knowing valuable was ever given, it was hard fought. Stop ignoring mirrors, stop ignoring eyes, stop ignoring voices. Open minds, empathy, unity, empathy, unity,
It's a journey.
It is a journey. It is a banger, as the kids say.
There's oh man, there's so much I could say because again, Luke, Matthew Elvis in the chat was saying a lot. Yeah, it's a real exercise on your breathing patterns.
I bet.
It's very full on. What's really interesting about the track for me was it was such a daunting task to write lyrics for because there was so much to write lyrics for.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, and I don't know if it's kind of like, you know, lucid writing where you just keep writing, but Mirrors without a doubt has some of the my favourite lyrics I've ever written. I mean, like individually, like there are lines in there that I love. And also, like at the beginning, I use like a variation of one of my all-time favourite quotes, which is "History doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes," which I think is just such a telling thing about how the world works.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just a real call to action towards the end. And so, like, I think one of the last bits is time and time again. The fire burns, history may haunt us, but we learn we must use foresight to shine a light. Like, we must use foresight to shine a light is like a lyric where at the time I was just kind of writing it. I think that works, but I look back and I go, for me, that is the message of the album. It's the idea that as humans we can look ahead, and so we should use that to shine a light. Unfortunately, when it comes to general populations and when we see what's happening in geopolitical terms, we don't seem to be shining a light with the power of foresight, whether it's climate change or war or economic crises, or pandemics even. But you know, there is hope in this album, even though there is a lot of despair reflected upon as well.
No, that's great. It's I mean, You know how good of a song is when it's if you say 7.5 minutes, you think, God, I'm listening to Dream Theater, but it goes with, you know, metalcore, post-hardcore, that kind of thing. For a song to be that long, and it feels like 3 minutes, just shows how good it is. I also love Cuzzy's comment, this is my boss fight song, I'm a 7 bullet sponge. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, no, you're right. I mean, the song went through an interesting thing, because I think it was a 9 minutes originally, and then when we really cut through it with Justin Hill, it went down to like 4 or 5 minutes. But at that point, it was like too far the other way, where Hugh, the guitarist, had mentioned that it was saying, the way he described it was, it's like you've got all the bricks, but you haven't got the mortar to hold it together. That, yes, there are parts that you could cut out, and although we've been left with the important segments, the journey that it goes on, it feels like it's missing. And it's a very different song to the rest of the album structurally, which is why I think in some reviews they've been like, yeah, we're not sure about this track. But a lot of people realise a lot of the other songs, you know straight away what the verses and choruses are, whereas this is a bit more of a grower because it goes on a journey. And, you know, we don't confine ourselves to like, this is a Schemata Theory song and so they're all going to sound like this. We do just go with what feels right, and we do experiment with it. And, you know, we know it's going to be a divisive track of some people going to like it, some people are going to think it's way too long, but
I love it.
We're playing it live.
Exactly. I love that. I absolutely love it. Write the music you want to listen to is what I think is a good thing to stand by, and I love it that you've been, like any band, just writing a 7.5 minute, 8 minute track is, you know, kind of ballsy. So the fact that it Cuzzy, you need to calm down with the phenomenal comments. It was 9 minutes. I love Activision.
But then I love what Luke has said. It
patch
was
day one. Day one patch. As soon as you press play, there's an update. Let's go to track 9, Pain Unknown.
Right, so Pain Unknown. Again, because the latter half of the album deals with a lot of things that we don't normally do, but it was great. This was an album, so it was a chance for us to stretch far and wide. For Pain Unknown, this was actually lyrically written by Luke, Matthew Elvis in the chat. It started off as a short interlude piece, and then Luke really connected with it and said, actually, I've got something that would work here. And he'd written a poem regarding a relative of his who'd passed away. And I'm not going to speak too fully about this because I always feel that, you know, Luke, I'd rather he speaks to it about it, and I don't want to misrepresent.
Sure.
He came forward with these words. And then as he started fleshing out into a song, he was saying to Hugh, yeah, this isn't long enough. You haven't given me enough runway, because like it went through the interlude and he was like, oh, I'm just building up now into the song and it's already over. And so there was a lot of back and forward between them. And they crafted what is a very different track, but beautiful, obviously incredibly heartfelt. And we were actually speaking on a previous live stream about we were talking about sort of habits in the studios that we have as individuals. And so for me, anyone that's seen clips that I've shared on social media, I stand on my tiptoes when I'm doing vocals. Now people say, why don't you just bring the mic stand to my level? I don't know. I've always felt something psychologically about being on my tiptoes and leaning into the microphone as I'm doing it. And I sort of bounce on my feet. And then when Luke was talking about it, he was saying for this song, he actually had a lot of the lights down, just so he could be in the zone and think about the words, which was very personal to him. And because it's spoken word at the beginning, you know, there's much more wiggle room or not wiggle room, but there's more of a spectrum of, like, you know, if you're shouting or belting out a voice, you're more likely to hit that one zone, whereas when it's spoken, there's a lot of variation that can go. I was just going to read what Luke just said in the chat. He says, it was written at a time that my grandma had been diagnosed with dementia, and it was a way to get my thoughts together on that journey and what I'd want her to understand as she goes through that journey. It's a very heartfelt track. And then when he wanted me to come in towards the end, most people think that if you're a vocalist, you want to be on it as much as possible. I genuinely was like, I don't know if I should be in this. Like, I love this track as it is. I don't want to ruin it. But he was like, no, we need this sort of pulse of you at the end with these vocals. And really, really happy with how it turned out. And the last thing I was going to mention about it was when we were coming up with what the album was going to be called, Unity in Time, and sort of the concept. Again, it was something that came after we'd written all the tracks, but we realised this idea of connection ran all the way through, and Pain Unknown is actually, in many ways, the most personal form of connection, because it's about connection with loved ones, which we can all, it's the strangeness of when it comes to death and grief, isn't it? Which is, we're all so, in many ways, frightened of it, and it's such a horrible thing to think about, and yet every human in human history has had to deal with it, either of deaths of loved ones or death of yourself. Like, it's something every human deals with, and yet all these years later, thousands of years later, it's still a very difficult thing to deal with. So
just going on to the point you were mentioning about you not wanting to come in, obviously, with the screen spot. I think that's what's so special about this genre of music, the fact that there is another. That's what, for me, a lot of people outside the genre don't really. Obviously, they hear the screaming like. For me, it's always, the screaming part's always been about the raw emotion, and that's something. I mean, obviously, it depends how it's portrayed. Obviously, if you listen to Shadow of Intent or something, you're there just to get absolutely pulverized. But especially with you guys, it's proper like emotion in the screaming. You can tell that there is so much feeling in it, and I just don't think a lot of other genres get to pull that off with their music. So I love that.
No, there's definitely a lot more wriggle room, and I think, well, two things. Firstly, when I was at rehearsal yesterday, I was quite moved by the practice, because a lot of these songs carry a lot more weight based on what's been happening with Ukraine at the moment. I feel the calls for unity and a lot of the things that are mentioned, especially in Mirrors and in Russia, which we haven't got to yet, really tap into it. But also currently at the moment, my parents are in Devon visiting my grandma, because my grandma has had dementia, and she's I'm in this weird stage of like, can I say this publicly? Of course I can. But like, she's in, I can't remember what the term is, but it's like end of care, where she's not eating and not taking medication. And the thing about dementia, there are many difficult things about dementia, but one of them is about like the idea of consent, of if they're not wanting medication, you can't force it on them. But then are they in a situation where they can be making that decision? And so, my parents have gone down there. So my nan is probably days away, but she's been in care for like, I'm going to say a decade, and she's not been in a good place for a long time. And the difficult thing about dementia, for anyone that's dealt with it, it's difficult in the sense that when we regard as death is in many ways is a cut-off point. They were alive, they were with us, and now they're gone, which is a very painful thing. But the thing about dementia is, and it's horrible to say it, and it's why I think it's such a difficult, or it's just a difficult thing to talk about generally, is when they leave us, it's harder to pinpoint, because, for example, my mum recently hasn't been recognised by her mum anymore at all. And it's like,
it's horrible.
That's a horrible thing to go through. And I was saying to my mum, but the times you had connected with your mum, it was real.
Of course.
And your mum will always be proud for you for what you've done, taking her into care and stuff and looking after her.
Absolutely.
And the times that you have communicated and there has been that connection, that is the cut-off point. It's so difficult to talk about it, because it's actually quite a modern day thing, dementia, just because a lot of us wouldn't even live until past our 30s, hundreds of years ago. And so, I think I connect on this song even more than ever for that reason.
Amazing. Here we go. This is Pain Unknown.
There are days when the words I spill on this page are the only truth I can bring myself to speak. Knowing that there soon will come a day when I will look into eyes that once held such love, and see the spark of recognition diminished, scares me more than you can know. As I fear for memories that will one day fail and fall away, I seek solace in the time we shared, and the memories that will endure in the minds of those of us you love. The fight against the ever-steady march of time is one age-old and never won, merely pushed back or prolonged and preserved in the loved ones we leave behind. Those moments, stolen from time's cruel grasp, become something more, and the knowing smile or loving look, however fleeting, are cherished that much more. There may come a time when you feel lost in a sea of strangers, faces once known, now lost in all but brief glimpses. Those to whom you mean everything, and for whom you gave everything.
Absolutely stunning track. Absolutely. And I definitely agree with Luke. I think your parts at the end as well just again added to the like how emotional that track is. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. And just Luke, I love Luke's voice, and I think that the progression from the initial spoken word to that first kind of verse where he really picks up his vocals. It's interesting because Luke and I, we move across each other, but we never cross paths. Yeah. And it is actually just based on our ability. Like Luke can scream. It's just a matter of when he pushes it, and obviously by screaming he risks ruining his lovely singing voice. Me, I've actually never been able to sing. I would love to be able to sing one day. I know I probably could. A little quick story. When we did a demo, maybe 7 years ago, there was a song we've done called Courage is Contagious, and in the final part of the song there's like 3 notes that the producer wanted me to sing, and it took me about 20 minutes to just do these 3 notes. And the moment it happened, I literally cried, and it was because I've never felt notes come out. And I think the thing about being a vocalist, and and I can say this as someone who's been a drummer, is like, of course, whatever you do as an instrument is always personal, but your vocals is you, like that is your instrument. And so I've heard from a lot of people, vocal coaches, that people that have never been able to sing before, especially people in their later years, or beyond 20, like when you're a kid, you're not really thinking about it, that a lot of people do cry because it is this connection with yourself. And so I would love to one day learn to sing, but it's a big thing. And in the context of us, it's like, I've got what I'm doing and I know I can do it well, and Luke, we both understand we're never going to do what the other does better, so it's better that we just like lean into our strengths. And I'm just really lucky to share a stage with great musicians, and with Luke, a great vocalist that's able to complement each other. Because when I think of the bands and artists I've always loved throughout my life, it's those that have contrast. I mean, when I got into metal, it was because of Fear Factory and their single Linchpin, where I'd never heard this like screaming and then this epic singing in the chorus. I was like, what the hell is this? This is amazing. And that's kind of through and through a lot of the bands that I like. And we're lucky that we're in a band that gets to replicate that.
That's awesome. Let's sadly move on to the final track 10.
Yes.
Horror Show.
Horror Show, oh man. So Horror Show is an interesting one in the sense that I feel like, on the one hand, it's an obvious single, but on the other hand, I'm like, maybe it's not. And Luke just said in the chat, Sick, also a good example of contrasting vocals, which is another reason why we're so lucky to work with Justin Hill on this album, because he understands how to work with dynamics of I was going to say conflicting vocals, but conflicting often can be a negative thing. I don't think it always is, but like there can be conflict when it's not managed right, and he's been really great with that. So Horror Show, absolutely love this track. It is about the absolute despair of our political systems, of like who are meant to be the grown-ups in the room, how they've allowed global crises to get so bad. And I'm going to actually knock off one of the pop quiz, because I said there were 3 tracks on here we'd already done like 4 or 5 years ago that then became onto this album. I'm going to knock one of them off. One of them was Horror Show, because when we first launched it, it was the day after Brexit. And then when we relaunched it on the album, it was the day after the Ukraine was invaded by Russia. It's a very big sounding song. With a lot of these songs, I was going to mention artists they're like Mirrors, there's a bit of a Funeral for a Friend vibe to it. I think there's a bit of a 30 Seconds to Mars vibe to it with the chorus. Luke's vocals are just absolutely incredible. But then it was also the first time I really got a sense of being able to do brutal vocals. Like when I listen to a lot of the bands that you play on here, a lot of the death metal bands and that, a part of being a vocalist is understanding you have your own voice and you've got to lean into it. You're never going to be able to replicate someone else. But I'm always like, I know I'm not a typical metal vocalist, and I'm often feel like a bit of an outsider. But after the first main chorus, I then shout, stand, silence will not prevail. And the brutality of it was the first time I was, okay, I actually can do really brutal vocals, and starting awesome to get my confidence that. And then the ending, again, the ending was exactly how it was on the EP. But one of the final lines is unity too big to fail, which was a play on the term like banks are too big to fail. It's the idea of these institutions, we can't regulate them because they're too big. But it's like, no, the biggest thing that can't fail is unity if we all stand together. And so the way that the song ends, it's just I think it's an emotional send off, and it was perfect to end the album on. And again, it's another song that's an absolute joy to play live.
Amazing. So we'll just play the final track of the Unit in Time Deep Dive. Again, for anybody that's just joined, the boys have been very, very kind enough to do a giveaway of one of their album bundles. If you look a bit further up, Eris has put what you need to do. Basically, follow the guys on Instagram and myself. Post a story on Instagram about Unit in Time. Like, it could be anything. Listen to it on Spotify, this stream, and tag the guys, and then you're entered. And once we're finished, the boys will announce who's won. So
yeah, we will do. So guys, you've got about how long's Horror Show?
You have. I mean, it's 4 minutes 31. Let's say you've got 5 minutes.
Yeah. You got 5 minutes to tag Schemata Theory on Instagram in a story post. It can just be a screenshot. Just say what you think of the music, and you'll be put in a draw to win a bundle, which includes a T-shirt, signed CD, lots of goodies like guitar picks and stuff like that. That's all you need to do in 5 minutes. Go for it.
4 minutes.
I might enter. I'm not allowed to enter. I'm not allowed to enter.
I would enter, but I've got one, and I'm saying you need one. So follow the boys, tag them in the story, put up anything about Unit in Time, the stream, listening to it, anything. 5 minute warning, this is Horror Show.
What will we see tonight? Scared to look with these uncovered eyes. Without you care, knowing us out of touch way must make new plans. Hey you! Welcome to the horror show! The one that you made! Corruption overflows! Welcome to the horror show! Systematic flaws allowed to happen by laws! At our despair! Can you see it? Is the view clear? Without you care, knowing us out of touch way must make new plans. They just don't care. We won't be scared. Now we're darkness and we must take our stand. Silence will not prevail. Complacency allows for holding the sails. Inaction and willful fit the gales. Apathy, the final nail. Disregard honor, global scale. Detachment and we'll be off the rails. Apathy, the final nail. Centralized power is lost. Our networks can reform. Unity too big to too far. Without you care, knowing us out of touch way must make new plans. They just don't care. We won't be scared. Now we're darkness and it's in
While we are witnessing a time of political upheaval, a staggering economy,
This doesn't work. The problems we're seeing in the world, both on the human level and the ecological level, is this discord. I've taken a square peg and trying to fit it into a round hole. And from here on out is when we see a worse crisis. Daunting, right? Even with the ongoing economic failure.
rise and fall of the stock market, to the rise and fall.
What we lost here is that we began to see the democratization
again, what a special album, what a special track, and I just think that is absolutely one of the most perfect album closers ever. It closes. I think 10 tracks, as short as it is the perfect amount for a metal album nowadays. I just think it's so good, and Horror Show really did kind of bring the curtain down perfectly. So bravo to you guys, honestly, amazing.
Thank you so much, man. And yeah, it's interesting you talk about that because, again, it didn't start off as being an album, and then as we did it, we were just 10 tracks. It's around 40 minutes. It is interesting. I think because it'd been so long since we released anything, we were like, is this actually long enough or is it underserved? And then also it's about the structure of it as well, because before we even released it, a concern I had, and this is just giving a sort of behind the scenes of the thought process you have, is I was Vantage Point, that 3-minute 50 sort of interlude with quotes. It comes in straight after New Vision. I was like, has that come in a track too early? I feel like the album's just getting started and then it comes in. But then a lot of the reviews have been no, it was a great break as it goes into this second half.
I think Halfway House is always perfect to maybe change something up and bring a bit of a tempo change or a vibe change. And I just absolutely love it. I mean, you know that. You probably think shut up, but
no. It's interesting. No, it is always interesting to hear because, as a band, we obviously have conversations within ourselves. But you're in this echo chamber, and you're in an echo chamber full of emotional baggage of journey that you've been on together,
sure.
And it's always good and reassuring to hear it from others. And as for Horror Show, as a closer, I mean, the chorus especially, it makes you sway with that beat, and live it just feels so good with the orchestral arrangement that was done by a friend of mine, Benjamin Simons, who is he was actually a guitarist in a classic metal band from Reading, Malefice. I don't know if you remember Malefice.
Oh yeah, that does ring a bell actually.
Yeah,
awesome.
he was the guitarist. I've known him for a long time, but he composed the arrangement for that and has been a great composer. So it was really, really great to have him there.
That's awesome.
Do you want me to quickly talk about when we're playing in the country?
I was about to say thank you so much for that is the Unit in Time deep dive. But tell us anything you want to plug for Schemata Theory coming up.
Awesome. Well, firstly, I just want to say a huge thank you for making this happen, dude. This has been a blast.
Absolute pleasure.
Talking to people about something you've created is such a joy, and it's not that I'm here to go, just tell me how wonderful it is. Talking about the issues and also talking about how it makes you feel, it means a lot, not just to me, but to the rest of the band. The band are watching, and really, really appreciate it. And to anyone in the chat, you might think that you're just one person with some comments and thoughts. It means a lot. It carries a lot of weight, and something I've tried to practice a lot, especially throughout the pandemic. A friend of my dad had mentioned is vitamin G. It's vitamin gratitude. And it's the idea that there's a lot of times in life where you appreciate someone or something, but you don't tell them because you're they probably hear it all the time. But actually, even when they're on a good day, that is when you should be telling them those things because it will make them keep doing it. So when people were saying, I love that track or I love what you've done, if we're feeling beaten up, that will help us pick ourselves back up. But if we're feeling good, it'll be no, we need to do more of it. So yeah, Jonny, man, the stuff that you do on this, not just for me, but for all the other bands is amazing, and just keep up the great work because you've got a great community here. It's really engaged and deep, and it's only going to keep growing. And I'm a part of that community, so I'm glad to be part of it.
Yes, you are, mate. You are. And all you boys, I would love it. Every Monday, 7 o'clock, I like to say these episodes are just me and my mates hanging out, finding good music together. So it means a lot coming from a band that, I love and we love so much. Thank you, man. So go on, plug.
Mutual respect is the best feeling in the world, brother.
It is.
Okay,
dude.
So in terms of dates, so this is all available on schematatheory.com. Mario right now is picking the winner, so stay tuned for that. We're playing in 2 weeks' time today, a hometown show in Bracknell at the Acoustic Couch. That was on the 18th of March. Please come down to that if you can, because it's a hometown show. We'd love to see you there. We're then playing on the 20th of March in Bristol at the Griffin. We're then playing on the 25th of March at Workington. which we played in November, and it was an absolute blast at Skinny Jimmy's, which is Lake District area. Then on the 26th, we're playing at Whitchurch at Percy's Cafe Bar. And then on the 27th, we're playing in Nottingham at Percy's Picklebackers. So yeah, all the dates are there.
Shout out Percy. He's got a lot of establishments.
Yeah, I've heard a lot. Yeah, exactly. And then on the 11th of August, we're going to be playing in Newcastle at Trillions. Then on the 13th, we're going to be playing in Rotherham at Breach the Bridge Festival. We're headlining that. Then we're playing on the 14th of August in Liverpool at Zanzibar. And then we're playing on the 3rd of September at Colville, the Victoria Bikers Pub. So all of that is at schematatheory.com/tour. We would love to see you there. We just, we love playing live. We love meeting everyone at the merch stand afterwards and just chatting. And if you are on social media, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, actually on Facebook, we have a Facebook group called The Voices, which is obviously named after the track Voices, because we feel everyone has a voice that they can use for good. And so it's just a great community for chatting about all things, not just schemata theory, but all things, anything. So, I put it out there. And if you don't follow us already on Spotify, please do, because, we haven't got the biggest following in the world. We have an amazingly enriching and deep community, which we love. But we want to get it out there because we feel the message of unity probably is needed more than ever in a world like now. And if we can bring more joy, that's what we want to do. So anyone that is willing to shout out about us, it means the world. So thank you for that.
Amazing. Do we have the name of the winner of the bundle?
So the winner is, drum roll, it's Eris K.
Hey! Amazing. There you go, Eris. If you want to message me your address, Eris, or message Myles, and there you go. Get a lovely Unity in Time bundle.
And Eris has been incredibly engaged in the chat, so actually I feel really good that you actually were chosen, because I'm sure there are some silent people that have played. Although they've all played the game, they've done the rules. That's good. They've tuned in.
And if anything, you have been enriched to find out a little bit more about this album you all love. And now, do you know what else you should do? You should say, "Damn it, I missed out, so I'm going to go stream it on Spotify," or go to schematatheory.com and pick up a bundle yourself. For the amount of stuff you get.
You can get the CDs, and also we've got shirts. The Mind Eater shirts are really, really nice, actually. Are they there yet? Let me have a look. I'm wondering about our own store.
Mind Eater shirt. I think I might have.
So we got Voices shirts. Oh yeah, the Mind Eater shirts. Man, the Mind Eater shirts are awesome. I mean, this is the thing about being in this band, because it's all investment money. The shirts that I want, I don't just get one because I want it. I'm having to buy it. I'm buying my own bundle.
Do you know what's funny? I actually, a year ago today, released my own, with my logo and everything. Find my friend's clothing company, JMR, with my logo. They were sick, and I didn't even get myself one. Every time I say like my brother or my mates with the one, I'm like, they look so good. But yeah, support the guys that way. Anything is absolutely amazing.
And that is the thing I would say is, like, Schemata Theory. We're not on a label. We're on Blood Blast Distributor, which is a part of Nuclear Blast, which is great. But this has all been self-funded. And if you believe in the message and what we do, coming to shows, streaming, spreading the word, buying merchandise, it all helps, because there's no profit that we then use to spend on ourselves. Like, anything that we make is then reinvested into the band, so we can tour more, we can make more merchandise, and we can do things just to get it out there. Because look, I can only speak for myself here, and it's not to say that what I'm about to say doesn't represent the others. Like, the whole band is on board with the music that we do, of course, and obviously the message. It would be a bit weird if we were playing songs that people didn't agree with. We're all on board on unity. But personally, from a creative side, my way, I like being an activist, but I'm not an activist that likes to patronize people. I like to just put ideas out there to get people thinking about things and having discussions. And for me, it's an absolute privilege to get to play music that inspires people and gets people thinking and discussing things. And so if people really do, unify on that, join us, get involved, and, I'll love you from now to the rest of the time, really. That's all I can say.
Amazing. Myles, it has been an absolute pleasure, my friend, honestly.